So as you have recently seen, a verdict has come from the Supreme Court in which a whole debate is currently going on. A discussion is happening on whether LGBTQ or same-sex marriage should have legal status or not. And I had tweeted about that same thing. And you must have seen that the CJI's vote, that particular appeal was rejected by a 5-0 vote, and it has now gone to the parliament for further consideration. And whenever a decision is made on it, whatever that may be, it has to come through the parliament. But what is very, very important for people to understand is the actual word marriage. The specific concept that is being talked about within our Sanatan Dharma in this, it is essentially an approval of eligibility. You must pay attention to this. The institution of marriage, it is the approval of eligibility for two adults to procreate, and in which you then have a certain familial responsibility towards the whole of society for carrying forward the next generation and for the civilization's very survival. Okay. So when the question finally arose as to whether same-sex marriage should get legal status or if it should not, so my personal opinion on same-sex matters is very, very clear, that you simply cannot give the terminology of marriage to same-sex marriage. This particular legal status cannot be given. And why can't it be given? It is because the main social tenet is precisely the approval of eligibility for two adults to be able to procreate. It is based on this very thing. So when they are not eligible right from the start, not at all eligible for procreation, you absolutely cannot under any circumstances give it the legal status of marriage. Okay, so I got some questions on this, that there are some couples who consciously decide they do not want to procreate at all. And then there are some couples who cannot procreate for various medical reasons, so they get the legal status of marriage. I said, yes, they absolutely get that legal status. Why? Because the institution of marriage, and I will repeat it again, it is the approval for the eligibility for the two adults to procreate. This is a form of social approval for the eligibility itself. Okay. Then what they decide later, whether to give birth or not, or if there are medical reasons or to adopt, that is a completely separate topic. Right? But same-sex marriage couples cannot get this legal status of marriage because the approval for eligibility cannot happen when the eligibility is simply not there. Right? One of the prime tenets to give that terminology marriage a legal status that is absent from the very start. So this is very important to understand, because in this, a lot of study will be required for you to fully understand what is what. And I personally do not think that the state has that much capacity, and it will also take time for it to understand that what is this gender thing, their internal identity, what they understand it to be, what is that. Now in the West, it has come out that today I'm feeling like a woman. This has also come out in the West, not only in some sports events. You have seen that males even go to some beauty events. These are individuals who are biologically male. So I really do not know if the state even possesses the capacity to understand this level of diversity. So that is a very distant matter. But I'm very clear on this particular point. You cannot grant the legal status of marriage because an exception simply cannot be made. It is a definition for a basic concept for the whole of society, for every single person. Right? So this is something that is very clear. Now, for as long as the question is about the significance of the concept of marriage within the field of geo-economics. So for instance, if you take non-resident Indians as an example, then you will begin to understand why NRIs are so successful in the West. The primary reason for this is the concept of marriage from Sanatan Dharma, where we do not believe that it is a piece of contract. Okay, this concept does not exist in Sanatana. In fact, there is no concept of divorce in Sanatana either. But it is very important for all of us to understand this, that it is not just a piece of contract. Therefore, you have very deep commitments towards your duties. In fact, if you look at all the sacred rounds of the wedding ceremony, you are taking those specific vows that I will fulfill this responsibility and this responsibility. You'll be surprised to know that there is no talk of rights anywhere. In the vows, what duty is the husband taking? It is all about that. Not one single chant ever talks about rights, because this is a duty-based society. Now we must understand that in the West, many families, because you possess this unique status of having a single country reserve currency. I'm talking about the last 400 years at least, the pound and the dollar regime. Because you possess that endless money printing machine, the dollar has largely taken on the role of the parents. The dollar has largely taken on the role of the husband, and the dollar has largely taken on the role of the wife, very much so. The dollar has taken on the role of children. How? Because parents have told them, you are 15 to 16 years old, get out of the house. Right. So why are parents able to do that? Because the central bank led government is saying that we will look after your Medicare, we will look after your social benefits and your income security, we will look after all of this. Okay. So due to this very exploitation of the West single country reserve currency, they have taken the entire family institution and broken it, destroyed it. And it is because of this, the whole thing that I always talk about in extreme Adam Smith style capitalism, that the West has gotten these heavy divorce rates of as much as 60%. And I was not surprised in the slightest, because as soon as you do that, which is what I say in all my talks, the word settle comes from the agriculture sector, from agricultural settlements. So it is no surprise that as soon as you go away from the core sectors, that is farming, food processing, logistics, manufacturing, entrepreneurship, as soon as you move away from all of these sectors, then it is obvious that every 3 years, your city is changing, your neighbors are changing, your employers are changing, and your bankers are changing, right? So you have basically been given the freedom to misbehave with one another as much as you possibly want. It is within this exact theme of extreme capitalism that we are forced to see such massive divorce rates in the West, right? Now we really need to understand just how big of a role this plays, how incredibly important marriage is in economics. For one thing, it is a very clear and obvious fact that the birth rates in all of the Western countries have completely fallen. As a result of this, for the replacement of labor and for the replacement of the main factor of production, they have allowed a lot of radicals to open up the borders for illegal immigration to come inside. And now what they are about to face is something I will tell you. A complete crusade will happen again in Europe, and the very same things like Balika Vadu and Johar and Sati will happen again with a great many European women. This will happen because they have opened the door for all of the radicals. So this also has that same economic link, that if your birth rates are not properly maintained, then your economic survival and your civilizational values are also brought into question. Right now we have to understand this, that the primary reason why NRIs became so very successful was precisely this. Their marriages remain intact, the family unit stays intact, and they have the wisdom of Sanatan Dharma's life cycle. Because of this, you continue saving for the next generation's education. We also happen to see some couples who do not get along with each other whatsoever, but purely and only for the sake of their children, they have continued the marriage or have continued co-parenting so that their savings are spent so they can complete their education. This is not seen in the West, in Western families. In the West, by the time of graduation, a child's parents have changed 2 or 3 times. Okay, because of which they are not able to complete their education. And because the dollar was at 1 or 2%, which means free, cheap money and endless printing of it from the machine, because of that single country reserve currency status. Since that was possible, a lot of youngsters at the age of 15 to 16 would leave home, and they used to start their lives by using this low level, low interest, cheap money. Now you must understand that 400-year single country reserve currency cycle is finally coming to an end. NR, I should especially listen to this. Listen carefully to what I am telling you. This 400-year-long single country reserve currency formula is coming to an end within this very decade, which means that cheap money will no longer be available. No dollar or euro will be able to cover your old age medical care, nor will you receive any social benefits at the same level that you have been getting until now. And I am talking about this decade. All right, are you understanding this? So what is bound to happen? You will have to keep your children living with you in your house, because once you reach old age, they are the ones who will take care of you. The state will not be able to take care of you, because until now the West, by dominating the entire world, was able to carry out this exploitation of the whole world. That is precisely why those social benefits they were receiving were possible. Now, after the financial reset happens, when all of these are cut, then your children will not only come back to live at home, but it is because that lifestyle they had, where they could purchase real estate, will no longer be affordable. News about this has already started coming out. The White House's official statement from October 16th came out regarding affordable housing. So now you see those big houses having 4, even 5 cars in a single house. This kind of lifestyle is not going to be possible in the West after the financial reset. People who do not understand this need to understand it now, which means all the children are going to come back home to live with their parents. We had actually predicted this very thing in our talks last year, that this is exactly what will happen in the financial crisis. They will not be able to pay their EMIs, and the jobs in the services sector will not be saved either, all because of de-dollarization. Okay, so not only will they come back home, but now these children will tell their parents that you cannot get a divorce either. It is not just a piece of contract. So this is that same clash between the Abrahamic religious thought process, which describes marriage simply as a piece of contract, and Sanatan Dharma, which I explain in all my talks, that there are really only 2 things in the whole world. One is Jammu and the other is Jerusalem. Right? So you will have to understand this point, that children will now start to question, you cannot divorce. When all these children come back home after the financial crisis, reports have already started coming out that many children in the West are returning home. So you must understand one thing, that neither will that kind of big house real estate be possible for you anymore, and neither will those kinds of job numbers be possible. All those service sector jobs that were created under the single country reserve currency formula, I am not saying they will disappear completely. I am saying that it will become difficult for even one member of the family to get a job. I am talking about the West. Let me repeat that. It will be difficult for just one member of the family to find a job. This is what is coming.